Hello and welcome to episode 53 of a Disney Life podcast. This is a place where friends old and new can come together to discuss our Disney travel adventures. My name is Rachel and I'm joined today by my co-host Missy. Hi Missy, how are you doing?
I am great, Rachel, and it's great to see you and chat with you this morning. I am excited for this week's episode because it's a trip of yours. Tell us what we're going to talk about.
So today we are going to talk about my recent 8-night cruise on board Royal Caribbean's Allure of the Sea. So this is the second Oasis-class ship, and she launched in November of 2009. And at this point, Missy and I have not discussed my trip at all. So this is all genuine that we are coming to you with fresh eyes and fresh ears, I guess. So you get to hear it as she gets to hear it today. And we're going to walk through my trip. Now, the Allure of the Seas went through a major, what Royal Caribbean calls an amplification back in 2025. The rooms were not touched. However, there was a lot of money poured into other parts of the ship to bring that up to date and to add some things that were exciting for families and people who are on board. So we're going to be discussing what happened during my 8-night Southern Caribbean sailing on today's episode.
So I'm very excited for today's episode because, first of all, it's one of Rachel's trips, and I love Rachel, and I love to hear about her trips and the sweet things that she does with her family. But also because, as you know, this is a Disney Life podcast. We typically talk about Disney-related things, but it kind of seems to us, even though I know it's not Disney, that cruising goes hand in hand because so many people who visit the parks in Central Florida add a cruise to the beginning or end of their stay. And adding a cruise at a Port Canaveral with Royal Caribbean has become very common. In particular, Allure of the Seas is a very special ship to me because back in 2021, when we had the long-awaited return to cruising, I was fortunate enough to cruise on Allure of the Seas for her test cruise when the CDC was testing things out and making sure the crew members and ships were all ready to go and start sailing again. So I have some special memories on Allure of the Seas. I love that Rachel just got to spend 8 nights on board with her family. And I'm very anxious to hear what the updates they have done were because I tend to be one of those people that researches a ship when I'm about to sail on it, but I'm not super up to date on everything that's going on with all of Royal ships because they have so many. And in some ways, they're super similar, and in some ways, they're very different. So let's get right into it with Rachel here about her trip. So, where do you want to start, Rachel? At home when you leave, or once you arrive, or what are we doing?
Sure. So this cruise took place May 16th through the 24th. This was a Southern Caribbean itinerary. It went to Curaçao, Aruba, Cabo Roja, Dominican Republic, and CocoCay. And so we went to the A and the C of the ABC Islands. Bon Air was not part of the itinerary, but we chose this because of the length and because of the destinations. If you have sailed a few times, eventually when you're sailing in the Caribbean several times, you start going to the same ports again and again and again. It's just because of the location of where everything is. But these were completely new ports except for CocoCay for my family. I also want to mention this was my husband's and my oldest 2 children's first cruise in almost 7 years.
Wow.
So it had
Okay.
been a long time.
That is a really long time.
Yes.
And those are
Yes.
some great destinations. I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying about, especially people who try to cruise frequently, like you and I do. We
Mhm.
tend to do shorter cruises out of Florida, so you're hitting those same Bahamian ports. It just takes longer to get down to the Southern Caribbean. I don't think Royal actually sails to those islands super often unless you're traveling down south, like to San Juan, to sail out of there on a Southern Caribbean itinerary. At least they didn't last I knew. And I've looked into that because Aruba is all I need to complete my Kokomo challenge. I need to get to
Really?
Aruba.
Okay.
I've been everywhere else in the song. You guys know we're Kokomo fans here. And so I need Aruba. You've gotten it. I'm a
That's
little jealous.
funny.
So once I heard you were going, I checked out a few itineraries, and there are not a ton that go to Aruba. So that's a special destination also. So good choice. I love that.
Yeah.
It was 8 nights. That's amazing.
Yes, and so the ones that do go to Aruba, there are a few from Miami, but these are longer sailings. You will rarely, if ever, find one out of Port Canaveral just because of the
Uh-huh.
distance that they have to travel. And sometimes it's a lot of their smaller ships, the Independence-class, which is not a small ship by any means, but compared to the Oasis-class and the Icon-class, they are smaller. So I'm sorry, not the
And to
independence
make
class,
that
freedom
to
class,
make
the
that
freedom class.
to make that relevant, to Disney, since this is a Disney Life, the Independence class ships that Royal has, which
No, they're
Rachel's
freedom
probably
class.
there's
Sorry, I misspoke. They are freedom
yeah,
class.
so for that class of ships, the Freedom, Liberty, and Independence, while they're small for Royal Caribbean, they're still the size of Disney's larger ships,
Mhm.
Adventure excluded, of course.
Yes.
So very comparable to those still large ships, just not as massive as what we have with the Oasis and Icon class ships.
Yes. Yeah, this ship, it really does feel like you're on, a city at sea. So,
It's so big.
yes, yeah. Now, I have been on cruises in the last 7 years. In fact, we've had a couple of episodes about cruises that we've done together in the
Mhm.
within the last few years. But, for my husband and my 2 oldest children, their last cruise was in 2019, and obviously we have 2020 happening. We had a cruise scheduled for Thanksgiving week of 2020, and that was canceled. And then once cruising started back up again, trying to get children on board was pretty complicated. And I didn't feel like dealing with that. And then we ended up having a third child. And so then a child
Surprise!
cannot, yeah, surprise. And a child cannot cruise and on sailings like this type of sailing until they're at least 6 months old. So just life happened. And then we built a house and life continued to happen. And so this was our first one together as a family. And we also traveled with my parents too. So we were a party of 7 traveling together. But we left our house 2 days early. So my children go to a hybrid type school, and their last day was May 14th, which is pretty early, for
Mom.
it end of school year. And so we drove from their school. We got out and we drove first to Gainesville, Florida, and we stayed at a Drury Inn there. Nothing exciting. No, the Drury Inn is fine. We've stayed there before, but I'm just saying it's uneventful day. Everybody was cooperative, so
It served
it
its
was good.
need, right? It
It
was a
served its
place to
need.
sleep for the
Yes.
night. Very good.
Yes. And we all drove together in a minivan, so we were packed. I don't know how my husband got
All
everything into the
7 of
minivan.
you or just
All
the 5 of
7
you?
of us, all
Oh,
7 of
goodness
us.
gracious.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and there's a reason why. We did not have all 7 of us coming back, but, so all 7 of us, and then we got I'll talk
Okay.
about that later. It was planned. I'll say that, it was planned. Then the next day on May 15th, we got up, we got out of the Drury Inn, we got the kids up and going. We try to get out about between 9 and 9:30 to drive the rest of the way to Fort Lauderdale. Florida is a very long state, and it takes some time. It took
You
us
feel like
about
you but I know when we do road trips from Pennsylvania down there, you feel like you've accomplished something when you hit Florida, but then you have to keep driving and driving,
yeah,
and we sailed
yes.
from Fort Lauderdale last year, and those last several hours were a lot, so
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, yeah, we got on the turnpike and it's just there's nothing. You have no idea there's undeveloped land left in Florida. So there it is when you're on the turnpike. But we drove all the way to Fort Lauderdale that afternoon. We got there about 3:30 in the afternoon. I mean, think about how long of a time that is from 9:30 to 3:30, stopping for lunch, stopping for bathroom breaks. But we stayed at the Hyatt Place Cruise Port and Convention Center. Now, you and I have talked quite a bit about lamenting hotels in Fort Lauderdale,
mhm. It
how
would be
hard it is
nice
to
if
find.
Disney would build one, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying if
Yes. No complaints with this one. No complaints.
okay.
So the rooms were large. We had when you walked in, there was a nice big living area with one of those long kind of desk type areas with a wardrobe on one side and a mini fridge. And then there was a divider and then I think they were full size beds. I don't think they were queens. I think they were full size beds. Now, my only complaints were the bathroom was really small. You had an area where the sink was outside of the actual room with the toilet and the shower itself. So,
Mm.
if you were getting ready and trying to let other
Can I
people
just
sleep,
say,
it happened.
I'm not a fan of those ever anywhere because
Yeah.
if your sink is not in the same room as your toilet, then you
Mhm.
are having to use your hand to open the doorknob before you can wash your hands. And I just
Yes.
never understand that anywhere. I've
Yeah.
seen it in a million places. I know it's common. Just makes me shake my head a bit. Like, why? Why are we doing this? Does
Yeah.
somebody really need to stand out there and brush their teeth that badly while I'm in the bathroom that we needed to put the sink outside? Like, why?
Mhm. Yeah.
Somebody needs to design that better. Anyway, what did you say it was called? It was the Hyatt
Hyatt
Place?
Place Cruise Port and Convention Center. There are several Hyatt Places in the area, but this is the Cruise Port and Convention Center. I think we were less than a mile away from the actual cruise port, so we were pretty
Okay.
close to it. No, again, no complaints other than the bathroom. The place was really quiet. They did have laundry on site. I did a load our first night there just to not have dirty clothes.
Start off clean, right?
Yes.
Everything clean.
Yes, across for the street was a Publix with some shops and some restaurants nearby. So that was really nice because we actually went over there and picked up some bottles of water for the night. There was a parking garage that you had to go through. It looked kind of sketchy, but it wasn't at all. The parking garage did not, it wasn't very big, and there was a sign for an LA Fitness. And that's how you saw it. We ended up driving out of the parking lot and circling around, but we could have just walked right through the parking garage and been out on the other side to where all this was located. And it was a big open area. But when we got there, we had about 30 minutes to kind of drop our things and get ready. And we all changed into, for the guys, Hawaiian shirts and the girls, some Hawaiian inspired outfits. And we went to a restaurant called Mai Kai that night. So I had never been here before. And the only reason I know about it is because my sister, she and her family vacationed down in Miami one spring break, and she said, "Oh, next time you come here, you have to go to this restaurant." And so this is a luau restaurant. It was about 20
Huh.
minutes away. Yeah. And they have a luau twice when they have performances. I'm not quite sure, honestly, if they have performances every night, but they do offer two performances. You can also just go to the restaurant itself and not be in the performance room. But if you were, we had to be there no later than 5:15, or our reservation was going to be given up.
Wow, that's
Yes.
pressure.
Yeah, it was pressure. So we rolled in at 5:13, and
Very good.
as in style when you're traveling with 7 different people, but we rolled in, they do only have valet parking, so that's something to keep in mind. They only have valet parking, so, valet came and took care of the vehicle while we got in line. When you make the reservation for the restaurant, you do reserve where your table is located, and so our table was right in front of the stage.
Wow.
Yes, so we were right there up close to these dancers. The way that they have this set up, and I did like this, you got your food first. They went ahead, got your orders, got
It's a
everything
good
going.
plan. Thank
Yes.
goodness, because I'm here thinking that could be a disaster with little kids that spent the last 2 days in a car,
Yeah.
and now you get them out of the car and you sit them at a table right in front of a stage.
Yes. Yeah.
Bold
Yeah.
move, Rachel.
So, we got our food first and we ate our food. And then they kind of had a break between the meal and dessert. And that's when the performance started. And the performance probably lasted, I don't know, about 45 minutes itself. And they had singing, and there was dancing. There were dances representing different parts of the Polynesian islands. And it was great. It was fantastic. It was very well done, very professional. It's been around, I think, since the 1950s was when this
Oh,
first
wow.
started. So it's been consistently around. The only thing that I would change is that I would actually choose a different table next time.
Not so close, huh?
Not so close. There were a couple of tables down on the main floor right in front of the stage, and then there were 2 side wings. I would not choose a side wing table, but there was a platform above that. I would choose one of the first tables on the platform to be able to see the stage better. And there were tables back behind it, and I did look back there at one point, and some people were having to stand to see the stage
Mhm.
really well. So be mindful of that too. If you were on the bottom level, you have a decent view no matter where you sit. But if you're on the upper level, get one of those tables in the front or find somewhere else to sit because you may not see as well as you like. But we had a great time, and then we walked around the grounds afterwards. It feels very secluded, although it is not. And they had a lot of different Polynesian inspired statues and waterfalls and great areas to take photos. There was somebody who works there that was doing crafts with kids. So each of my kids got kind of some stamp paintings with some Polynesian symbols and things like that that they brought home with them. So we had a fantastic time, and we were done. Probably the whole experience was about hour and a half to 2 hours, and they had a
Wow.
great menu, and I had great food. So no complaints there whatsoever.
Well, that sounds like a fun way to start a tropical vacation.
It
Very
does.
fun. And I will say, I did see a few of your social media posts while you're gone. So I did not really read into what exactly you were doing because I wanted to be surprised when we chatted about this today. And I saw 2 different photos. One I texted you about immediately, and we'll chat about a little later in this episode. And the other was you guys all dressed up, and it looked like you had gone to the beach or something. I'm
Yeah.
assuming it was that night because you were in
Yes.
all in
Yes.
the clothing that you described. So
Yes.
very fun. That
Yeah.
explains to
So
me why you were dressed like that. Because I
yes.
was
Yeah.
wondering, I'm like, this is very ambitious after a car ride to go out and get
Right.
these
It was
matching
not just
photos in our
touristy clothes.
Hawaiian
Yeah.
attire. So okay.
Yeah, we decided to drive back along the coastline, and at one point there was a wall, but you could see beach access. And so we pulled over and let the kids just get out for a few minutes, put their toes in the sand. My youngest has never been to the beach. I'm not a huge beach person. And so, especially with young kids, and my thing with that is
Yeah,
the
sand
ocean,
gets everywhere.
it gets everywhere. It gets, I looked at, well, after 2 days of sand during this trip, I looked at my husband, I said, "I'm good for another 10 years." But it gets everywhere, but
Stop.
the ocean, it's big, it's powerful, and I respect it,
Mhm.
and, it's kinda stressful when you're with children.
I
It's hard
believe
to
that.
relax.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, I still get stressed taking my kids to the Jersey Shore. We go almost every summer for a week to the Jersey Shore. They're both American Red Cross certified lifeguards. They are strong swimmers and they know about riptides and currents and what to do and what not to do. They're far more capable of saving themselves than I would be of saving them at this point. However, I still get nervous,
Mhm.
especially places that you can't see the water and what's lurking
Yeah.
inside of it. So I've had that on my mind this week because we have a Jersey Shore vacation coming up in June, and my husband was actually fishing at the same beach area this past week, and he sent me photos of the fish he caught, and I'm like, I do not want to get in the water when those huge, like 20-something inch fish are swimming around
Yeah.
right in the
Right.
same little area. Like, no, no, no. But yeah.
Yeah.
So I get that. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I am assuming they loved it. Did they
Yeah.
have fun?
They did, they had fun, they were sad that we made them leave. We only stayed out there for about 10 minutes, got a few photos, let them dig in the sand, and then we said, "You know what, guys? We're going on a cruise where
You'll
we're going
have
to see
beach
lots
time.
of sand." Yes, we are going to see it a lot. So, that's what we did. We went to bed that night, got up the next morning, kind of had a leisurely morning. Jordan actually took my oldest 2 kids to the pool of the hotel while I kind of not repacked everything, but, you kind of move things around for what you need for the day and everything like that. So, I did all that. So, we had a carry-on that we had used for the 2 previous nights, but I knew we wanted to have our swimsuits once we were on board, so I kinda moved what we would need from the cruise from our bigger suitcases over to the carry-on so we could make sure to have that because if you've ever been on a cruise or if you've never been on a cruise, it takes some time for your luggage to arrive. So, wanted to make sure we had what we needed, but, and then my parents took my youngest to get some breakfast. My husband had taken them on their way to the pool, but I cannot speak to the quality of the breakfast that the hotel had. It did have a breakfast though because I never saw it.
For
Yes.
mom, I
And
see.
I was fine because I knew once I got on board, I was going to have a big lunch. So I was
Uh-huh.
completely okay skipping breakfast that morning. But so since we were driving, we drove to the port. It was easy enough getting in there. And we went and we dropped all of our luggage off, dropped what needed to be taken with the porters to the porters. And then we had about 2 carry-ons between all of us and the kids' backpacks and the kids, and my husband went and parked the car, and that was a bit of an ordeal to find parking, so I'm not sure if you had better luck when you went, with Disney Cruise Line last summer, but my husband called me and he said, "Well, I'm in a lot beside it, it's not covered," and I said, "Well, I would prefer a parking garage for 8 nights in Fort Lauderdale."
Yeah. Yeah, just for the sun. I mean, your car's not
Yeah.
used to being out there down in that blazing sun. Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Where do you remember which terminal it was they went out of? Like, where it
Oh,
was in
that's a
relation to the
great
DCL one?
I don't remember what terminal it was. I wanna say 18 or 19, but I know there's 2 parking garages, and I think Heron Parking Garage is closer to DCL.
Yes. I believe
Yeah,
that's
and
right,
so
yeah.
there's another parking garage that was closer to where we were, and
Okay.
so that's where he ended up parking, but it took him probably about 30 minutes from the time he dropped us off to the time he got back to us, just
So
from
what were
trying to
you doing in that time frame? Did they have you guys lined up, or was it just craziness on the sidewalk,
No,
or
it was
what?
crazy. I mean, people were just pouring into the port. We were on the side. We were outside, but we went under some shade and just backed up against the wall because the porters are coming through with luggage and there really is there was a line to get inside the door and people kept saying, some porters said, well, go on this side of it. There's benches up there. And it's like, but you're in line at that point. So I had all of our passports. I didn't want to get anywhere where I couldn't get to my husband easily, but he
Mhm.
did. So we waited about 30 minutes up against the wall. The kids were getting a little bit restless. I think my son was getting a little bit stressed out at this point because he
Mhm.
sees all these people going in and we're just standing there. And I said, hey, we're just waiting on dad and then it'll be fine. And my oldest 2 especially were stressed because they kept hearing how embarkation day is the most stressful. It's just go, 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 go. And
Mhm.
so they were a little bit worried that here we are just stopped. And I said, "It will be okay." As soon as my husband got close, he called me. He said, "Hey, I'm walking in now." And so we went ahead and got in line, and he met us in line. And then from there, we didn't stop. It was a breeze to get through, have our passports checked, get on board, walk up. Now, this had a long walk up. I felt like we zigzagged 3 stories to get up to where you enter in. But you enter in on the promenade, and it's very impressive, and my kids were so excited. They really were to be able to go and get on board, and, our first stop, of course, was the Windjammer.
Windjammer Buffet, that's the place
Yes.
to go.
It
Okay.
is the place to go. So this is the buffet. It was located, up on the upper decks. I believe it was deck 15 aft. It was either 15 or 16. I'm sorry. I don't remember exactly what deck number, but it's a massive buffet. We had to circle around a couple of times to find a table.
I was
And
just going to ask how it was with the group of 7 because embarkation day, everybody floods to that buffet at the
yes.
same time, and it's hard to find seating sometimes for
Yeah.
a family. So a family of 7 is a lot to seat at
Yes.
once.
We ended up circling, twice, and then, we found some people getting up, and so we got the table, we set our stuff down, and then asked somebody to clean it off. I will mention this, now while we were circling for a table, they did make announcements, "If you're done eating, please leave." The
Mhm.
Windjammer had some big booth areas kind of tucked away in the corners, and we walked by one of them at one time, and there was a family there playing cards.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a poor that's an
I really
unkind choice for that
yes, I
time
would
frame.
I am
There
not
are
the
other
type to say
places
something. Yes.
indoors that they can find a table to
Yes.
sit and play.
There are
Yeah,
so
definitely.
many places to go and find a sit place to like, I just wanted to be like, "Do you not see all these people walking around with plates of food, trying desperately to
And
find
hungry
somewhere to sit?"
children? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and I was kinda surprised that the staff, the crew wasn't going around kind of nicely shooing people away, like, "All right,
Mhm.
let's go find somewhere else to go." And plus, I just wouldn't want to play cards in the Windjammer. I mean, it's
I feel like
chaotic.
there might be something else you'd want to do since you
Yeah.
just
Yes.
ordered the
Yeah. And they had eaten clearly, but they were done. I mean, they were
right.
sitting
I
there
mean, there are
dealing
other
out
things to
cards.
see and do, but I guess
Yes, yes. I mean,
were
that's
these like
exactly how
regular
we were.
playing cards or was it some type
Yes.
of like game, like, I don't know, like the
I think they
trading
were playing
kind or what were they?
spades. No, it was just regular playing cards. I just
Interesting.
thought, "What in the world?" So we found a table, got the kids food. They could not believe the amount of food that there was. And we kept kind of telling them the whole time, "Hey, you can eat whatever you want to on this cruise. We are pretty strict about what we eat at home," but we were like, "You get to eat it." So
You're on
they loved
vacation,
that.
right?
Yeah, they're on vacation. They loved the desserts. We gave our son a little bit of freedom to go back as he wanted to the buffet, and be able to find us again. So he enjoyed that. I did notice typically on Royal Caribbean, you've got water, unsweetened tea, and lemonade. They also had fruit punch in the Windjammer too, that
Mhm.
they were filling cups of with. And so we had, while we were sitting there eating, they did announce that the rooms were ready.
Very good.
And I just
What was
wanted
that around
we
like 1:30 or so? 1,
yes,
1:30
it
total?
was about 1:30 at this point, and so we decided, let's go ahead and drop our stuff off, and so we went to the room. Our other thing on our list was to go to the kids club and get the kids signed up for it, and then head over to Splashaway Bay and let the kids play in the water. So we went to our room, and we were staying in a 1K ultra spacious ocean view cabin, and this was just for my immediate family of 5. These cabins sleep 6, and this was perfect for us. We were on deck 11. We were all the way forward. We had a slanted window overlooking the very front of the ship. We could see the helicopter pad.
Oh, wow.
That was our view. Yeah.
That's cool. Okay,
Yes.
so then I have some questions on that then
Okay.
before you tell us all about the room. Did you happen to compare pricing between that ultra spacious room and 2 connecting rooms to see which would be less expensive or like why were I guess what I'm thinking is we've sailed with Royal Caribbean many times with our kids and it has pretty much always worked out to cost less to do 2 connecting rooms than to do 1 larger room to accommodate all, and the 2 connecting rooms tend to be not a whole lot more than all 4 of us crammed to 1 little room. So, I've never been in one of the larger rooms with Royal Caribbean other than a suite. I was in a
Yeah.
suite before with Royal Caribbean, but I've never been in one of those ultra spacious rooms. So, I'm curious how that worked out with pricing and everything else.
Okay, so here's why we chose that. Just plain and simple. We got the kids sail free offer.
Okay, well, then that makes 100% sense.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So it worked out well for us. All 3 of my children were free. They did have to pay taxes and port fees, but, because of when in May we were going, the cruise right after us, Kids Sail Free did not apply to. But because of when we were going in May, we were able to get Kids Sail Free, which Royal Caribbean does offer, quite frequently as a discounted promotion when schools are typically in session is when you will
Uh-huh.
find it, but kids who are 12 and under will sail for free, but taxes and port fees do need to be paid, so that was an easy,
Right, but for
choice
our
for us.
listeners who aren't familiar with that offer, the first 2 guests in the room do have to pay the full price for double occupancy regardless of age. So if Rachel had booked 2 separate rooms, she would have been paying full price for 4 guests and just had
Yeah,
1 child free. So this way, you paid full price for your first 2 guests and all 3 kids were free. So excellent, makes total sense. I
yeah.
understand it now.
Yeah, and another thing too, my parents actually, had the room not the exact same room, but the same room category on the very front of the ship. On the Allure last summer, they took a Mediterranean cruise. The Allure was out in the Mediterranean, and they stayed in one of those rooms, and they really enjoyed it. My mom is a diamond status with Royal Caribbean, so she has sailed a lot with Royal Caribbean, and, she really did enjoy those rooms, so when we were kind of talking about taking this cruise together, it was perfectly fine. My husband, of all things, I was surprised by this, he did not want us to have a balcony because of the kids, and I'll also mention balconies are very safe when you do have children as far as it is hard for them to access the locks to the doors to get out on there, but he just did not want to worry about it, and I was kind of surprised
Hmm.
because we had looked at some other options at Might Sleep 5 that have a balcony, but he said, "Hey, I just want an ocean view and not worry about it." So, that worked out well. I loved this cabin. I would book it again in a heartbeat. Uh, the location again was at the very front of the ship. You did feel some vibrations when we would dock, but you're gonna feel that if you're all the way in the aft as well too. It just happens, and you feel that throughout the ship. But the layout was as soon as you walked in, you had the bathroom on the left. Now the bathroom was small. It was not any larger, having as
So
of
like regular size, the spacious parts in the
yes.
rest of the room, the sleeping
Yes,
area,
the
it's
spacious part
not
is in
in
the
the
restroom. It
bathroom.
is not in the
Okay.
bathroom. It was not there to be found.
I know with
On
their
the
junior suites,
yeah.
the rooms are larger, which
Mhm.
I think is kind of a false name for them to be called junior suites. They're really comparable to Disney's Family Ocean View staterooms, in
Yes.
my opinion. They have more sleeping space, but then they also have larger bathrooms on
Yes.
most
Yeah,
of
they
their
will have
ships. So,
tubs in theirs too,
okay.
in the
But
junior
this is
suites.
just regular, yeah, the
Just a
regular
regular
little
stand-up
bathroom.
shower, toilet beside it, and you have a sink.
Okay.
So very small bathroom, but on the right-hand side were bunk beds as soon as you walked in, and there was
Hmm.
a large pull curtain to divide to close off the bunk beds, but they had a small little closet area. There wasn't a rack on there or anything, but it was just a place where they could put their backpacks, so it
Stash
worked out
things away.
well. Yeah, just put things away. And then as you're walking in through there, you have closets on either side. So we did have 2 closets. I appreciated that. We had so much closet space, we did not need to use any drawers throughout the rest of the cabin. And then we had our bed over on the left-hand side. So Royal Caribbean, you can move the beds into 2 twin beds or they can combine them into 1. It is your preference. Obviously, we preferred combining into 1. And then on the opposite side of the bed, there was another curtain and you had the sofa, and the sofa converted into a double bed. A lot of their sofas that they are putting in now have this single sofa and a trundle bed on the bottom.
Mhm.
This was a true double bed that it converted to. And
Okay.
in fact, I never saw it as a sofa the entire trip. It was already converted and it stayed converted.
And it stayed that way, huh?
Yes.
So
And then
did
across
anybody sleep in the top bunk, or did you have
yeah.
2 of them sharing did they, like, kinda swap around to check out the bed situation, or
So, at first they said they were going to swap around and change out, but, my daughter wanted the top bunk at first, and my son was okay with that. She got up there, and she had some trouble getting down.
Mm.
The rungs for the bunk were quite a bit far apart, especially the bottom rung from the floor, and she had a hard time getting down onto the floor on her own. He is very tall for his age, so, he had trouble about the first 2 or 3 times, and I said, "Hey, by the end of the day, it will feel like nothing to you, like, you'll be used to it." So, no fights over that, and then our youngest took the double sofa bed. So,
Oh,
that was
that's
probably
funny.
the yeah. She was in the double
She
bed
took
by
the
herself.
biggest bed. Good for
She
her.
did. But you know what? That worked out just fine because she's got a toddler bed at home, and so I wanted a place where I could feel she had enough room to wiggle and stretch out and everything, but
Mhm.
she loved it. She absolutely loved it. She was the first one up every single morning,
Oh, what a
and she would
sweetheart.
Yeah, she would get out of bed and come around and look at me and say, "It's morning. Yes, please go back to sleep." But from there, we had, a vanity where the mirror is and a little desk area on the other side, and then you have this huge area where the window is located. This was a massive area, and it was great. It was great to get the kids ready in that area, to let them play and move around a lot. I am so sorry for whoever was below us. We did not let them run and jump around anywhere at night, but they just like to play in that area. And, the first thing my son did, he is a big reader, and the first thing he did is grab one of his books and put the chair in front of the window and just start reading
Uh,
with that view out
so is it
in
one of
front
like
of
the
him.
the slanted windows that
Yes, it
angles
is a
in? Okay,
yeah, it's
because
not
you
a
were
round porthole.
facing forward, right? Like
Yes,
you were all the way forward facing the
yeah.
direction the ship was going, not to
Yes,
the side.
you are all the way
Okay.
forward, and there was a little sign above it. I didn't take a picture of the sign, I just realized that, but there was a little sign above it that said, "At nighttime, please make sure your curtains are closed." You could not have any light shining out through there so they can see properly.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
So and this is actually how we ended up so there was, like, a rung missing on our curtain. The curtain desperately needed to be replaced. I will say that was the biggest thing in that room. The curtains needed to be replaced everywhere. And so there was a rung that was off or something, so it wasn't closing all the way. Well, we ended up having a bungee cord, and I'll get to that later because I have that for my tip of the week, but we ended up having a bungee cord, and so I just tied basically with bungee ties the curtain together every single night to keep the morning light out and to make sure our light wasn't going out and disturbing anything because we were right below the bridge.
Hmm.
That there was nothing above us except for that. So, but it was quiet. There were times that I thought, is there anybody on either side of us? Because we never heard anybody. My parents, there was a cabin between us and my parents' cabin, so we did not have connecting cabins, but they had magnets. My mom went out and got a bunch of magnets for us, so my kids always knew which room was theirs. And the first thing they did was decorate our door as we were kind of getting acclimated to the room. One thing about Royal Caribbean, at least for the Allure of the Seas, the door is not flat. The door is kind of textured. So if you're
Hmm.
going to get magnets, it was a little bit of a pain to stick them on.
Okay.
Yeah. And then from there, I met our room steward, and he did ask me if we preferred our room to be cleaned in the morning or in the evening. So he had about a
Okay.
2-hour break in the afternoon. And when did we prefer to have our room cleaned? It would only be cleaned once a day. I chose the evening time, and he was actually relieved by that. So I think most people had selected morning for him by that point. So that way he could get everything done, but I just thought, with kids, if we come back to the cabin during the day, they are going to mess everything up. Let's just
Hmm.
leave it messed up, and then when we get back from dinner, it will be nice and clean and ready for the rest of the night.
That's good thinking, and that's one thing that I don't love, a change of Royal Caribbeans I don't love in more recent years is they dropped the service from twice a day to once a day. They do let you choose when you'd like to have it serviced, but I also prefer the evening because one of my favorite things about cruising is coming back at the end of the day to just that fresh, relaxing, air-conditioned, clean room with the turned down beds and everything just comfortable and ready for sleep. So I would do the same thing. I would
Yeah.
choose evening also, but I would imagine most people choose opposite because
Mhm.
they figure, get it made up at the beginning of the day. But I like to nap sometimes in the afternoon on a ship, especially on a longer itinerary like you guys had. So, and when you have kids. So then I'd be
Yep.
messing up the bed before bedtime and that would be sad. So I'm
Yeah,
right with
and
you there. Good
if
choice.
you come back to your cabin and they're cleaning it, you're not getting in just yet. There's a lot of things where as opposed to waiting until we're at dinner when we're going to be gone for a little bit.
Hmm.
So they have time to clean it up. But so we, after we checked out the room, we went up to the kids club. This is the first time for any of my children in a cruise kids club. And so we signed all of
Okay.
them up for it. One thing I was really surprised, they asked if we wanted my oldest to be able to leave and check himself out of the kids club
Hmm.
by himself. And I said,
Yep.
no.
I think every mom who has a little cruiser remembers the day when they were asked that the first time because I remember I was appalled. It was a 7-night Southern Caribbean sailing we did actually with Disney out of San Juan, and we got there and they asked, and I was like, "What? Why would I allow that? What?" I mean, I think she was just 10, and I was like, "No, she's
Yeah.
not doing that." I'm like, "Is this some crazy thing they do out of San Juan? Like, why?" And then I was like, "Okay, well, maybe she's a little older than you think." But she was very comfortable on ships, but it was still a hard no. She was not
Yeah.
quite ready at that age, I don't think. And how old
Yeah.
is he?
He's 9. He is 9. Yeah.
Hey, Cray.
There was
Okay.
no way. Yeah, there was no way, and it's not because I don't think he's not responsible, he's a very responsible kid, but when he leaves, there's no way for him to get in touch with us. at all.
Mhm.
So there's, he doesn't have a cell phone. So I didn't want him to have that option. So declined that, but we signed them up for it. We told them we'd bring them back later that evening, and we did. Then we went and took a carousel ride. So if you're not familiar, these ships do have carousels on board. This is located in the boardwalk area. The girls loved it. We went to the carousel many, many times on this trip.
Aw, that's
Yes.
sweet.
Yeah.
I often wonder if anybody actually uses them because I feel like every time I go by, there'll maybe be like one person or there'll be a crew member like hanging around waiting for people to show
Yeah.
up. So I love that people actually ride them. That's
Yeah,
sweet.
I think one day my daughter rode it 6 times,
Oh,
so
wow. Good for her.
she loved it, yeah. And then we
Excellent.
went to Splashaway Bay, which is the kids splash area. There's an area
Mhm.
for young children, and then this area is also for children. No swim diapers are allowed. We've talked about that in past episodes. It's a hygienic issue, more than they just don't like small children, but, no swim diapers are allowed, but this had 3 water slides and, one of those water buckets that would pour out and everything,
Mhm.
but we spent a lot of time at Splashaway Bay, so found out our youngest is quite the daredevil. They had 2 small yellow slides that just kinda went straight down, went down and you're there, but they also had an
Mhm.
orange slide that curved around and in a
Mhm.
tunnel and shot you out, and she went on that so many times.
And she's young too, right? She just turned 3,
Yeah,
right?
she's 3. She is 3.5, so she loved it. She absolutely had a blast. And then we got them out and got ready for our first dinner in the main dining room. We had the early seating at 5 PM. And now I
That
will
is
say this
early.
is yes, it was early. I will say this was a major difference. I last time I sailed on Royal Caribbean for any length of time, dinner took almost 2 hours every
Mhm.
single night. And we had got a bunch of stuff, a lot of books, a lot of different drawing things to take to the kids for the kids at dinner to keep them occupied during that time. And we used none of it because every single dinner lasted an hour or less
I
on
feel like
board.
it's very rushed now, very
Yes.
rushed through, which I don't really mind. And they
Yeah.
will slow things down. If I think every cruise line would if you want them to, but they have a lot of people to get through there.
Mhm.
And it's so I feel like it's more rushed than it used to be. I
Yeah.
also feel like maybe they're possibly slightly less encouraging and generous with additional food portions. It used to be encouraged by servers. You could order more than one entree and you could try both appetizers if you're not sure. And now it's like, choose one.
Move along. So
Get
I
on
our
out of
our
here.
servers did encourage us actually to
Oh,
order
great.
multiple yes, yeah, so there were and mostly for me, it was ordering multiple appetizers that I would do that
Yeah,
on, but my
right.
daughter, my middle child, my oldest daughter, she's 7, and she ordered off the adult menu a few times and then said, "Well, can
Uh-huh.
I have, like, a cheeseburger too?" And they no problem whatsoever, but that first night, I got the prime rib, and for dessert, they had a cheese plate, and I ordered it, and instant regret. It was just a big hunk of cheddar and a big hunk of Swiss, and it was
Uh,
like, "This is not
that's
good."
disappointing.
Yes. So I did not get anywhere finish that, but, the first night, our wait staff seemed pretty preoccupied. I don't know if our assistant server was having to fill in somewhere else too. We saw him, like, one time, and then our main server filled in for the rest, so it took a little bit longer. It did not leave a great first impression that night, to be completely honest with you,
Oh,
but, we had him for 8 nights, and it got better. So I think
good,
something was
good.
going on. I really think he had to fill in for somebody else, but after that, we went to the ice skating show. The Allure of the Seas does have an ice skating rink, so we went down and it was called Blades, and, they played a variety of music. We sat on the very front row, and the girls loved it. They got high fives from the skaters, everything that they wanted, and then after that, we took them to the kids club for the first time. So, first time for my kids in a kids club, and after that, couldn't keep my son out of it.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah.
Okay. So we've never done any of the Royals kids clubs. My kids were pretty young and the ships weren't quite as impressive back
Mhm.
then. And I can remember our first Royal cruise with them was on Explorer of the Seas. And we walked into that kids club and I just turned around and said, "Okay, turn around, walk back that way now." And that was it. We did not
Yeah.
see any more of that kids because I could tell it was very unorganized at the time. And they were having you sign up on paper for things. And it was just, I didn't feel good about it, but they have
Yeah.
come a long, long way, and they're really right up there. It's not Disney themed. Like I
Mhm.
think what people love about the Disney's kids clubs are the specific Disney things that make it so
Yeah.
special. But Royal Caribbean does a fantastic job now with their spaces and the activities and the counselors that they have running things for the kids. They're really up there to that Disney level at this point, I think.
Yeah. I would agree. So I did not see the room that my oldest 2 were in. I could see parts of it. They had like a video game station set up. My son loves to play Gaga Ball. Have you heard
Uh-huh.
of Gaga Ball? Okay, so
I do know what Gaga
okay,
Ball
so
is, yes.
they did not have a Gaga Ball pit. It was just a big open square room, but they were playing Gaga Ball all the time, and that's all that he loves that. So that drew him in. They apparently had a craft station because my oldest daughter came back with a lot of crafts at times.
Wouldn't
But for
playing Gaga Ball without the actual pit just make it hacky sack?
pretty much, or like dodgeball, basically.
They think it's something new, but we did that years ago.
Yeah, so, but, he loved it, and I know they had other things going on because they told me about other things that they did at the kids club. The
Mhm.
club part for the 3 to 5-year-olds, when you walked into the over to the side, they kind of had almost like a big playhouse type situation set up with, like a fake flower shop and a fake marketplace, and there were a few little slides built into those. So, it was really nice, and they had a separate room that anybody could go into. You had to supervise your children. You could not leave your children. There was no present there, but they had like a sailboat set up and everything like that for kids to run around in. This was great if you had children who were not 3 yet, and
Okay.
a great place for them to go. They also had a huge craft room that they ran crafts for families in throughout. We never went to it during that time, but they would have things that you could do as a family on
Oh,
board. So, it was nice, and Meredith went into the kids club, she went in just fine. She liked the kids club the least out of all the 3, but I think for a couple of reasons. One, she was separated from her siblings,
right.
and I
So
think
your
she
2
did not like
oldest were
that.
able to be together, and
Yes,
then
2
she
older were
was
able to be
separate?
together.
Yeah.
Their club was for
Okay.
ages 6 to 12,
Okay.
and so they were able to be together, but, she was separated from them. I don't think she liked that. She never cried or whined. She just after the first day, she didn't ask to go back,
Okay.
and, you did have
That's
to be
okay. There's plenty to do. Plenty
yes,
for her to
yeah,
do on board
and
with
my
you.
husband and I both agreed we're not just going to dump them in the kids club. If they want to
Mhm.
go, if they like it, we will let them go, but this is not just a babysitter for us.
Right.
And so then we also had to be fully potty trained, which she did potty train right before we left. My kids were all late potty trainers, but it was one of those things. It was like, we're not going to help them in the bathroom at all. And I don't think she liked that. I think that was the biggest reason why she didn't like to go. So, and I guess I understand that. But then we went to bed that night, got up. Our next 2 days were actually at sea, which again, it's a Southern Caribbean itinerary. We needed time to get out there. And, we took the kids to the kids club. They asked for it first thing in the morning, and then we went to morning trivia, and I love playing any and all sites of games and trivia on board, and we won that trivia, and there was a photo that came out about that. Missy, why don't you
So, Rachel, I'm still not entirely sure what if was it a prize or was it just a
It was a
highlighter that
prize.
you were using?
It was
Okay,
a
so
prize. It was our prize for winning first place, yes.
so Rachel won first place and she won a highlighter, which was like a white stick highlighter with like a bluish tip on the top. I think it
Mhm.
was a Royal Caribbean logo
Yeah.
on it. When I first saw that photo on her Facebook page, I thought she was holding up a pregnancy test. And I was a little shocked because it wasn't something I was aware of. And
Yeah.
it could really change like our schedule here for our recordings and also
Yeah.
Rachel's future cruises. So
Yes.
I don't want to say I was relieved that it wasn't because obviously a baby would have been a blessing, but I knew also it wasn't something that was being planned. And I thought it was a very strange way for Rachel to just post this with no explanation of like, here it is, here's my
Yeah.
positive test in a lounge on a ship. And I didn't understand it, but I was completely wrong. Apparently I was not the only one because she had
Yeah,
other
you were not
people asking
yeah.
her as well.
Yes, I've had several people ask me if this was an announcement or that they thought that that's what it was, but no, and I guess looking back on it now, I do see where people are getting that idea,
You
but,
looked very happy,
I
but
was
it was
very
not
happy.
like
Yeah,
it did not look like any pen or marker or
yeah.
highlighter I have ever seen before in my life. It looked like she was holding up a pregnancy test
It
in a lounge on a ship, and she was very
yes,
happy about it,
I'm
and it
very
just
happy
wasn't the
about
case.
yeah. And no, it was not, it was just a highlighter. I was very happy about winning first place and
So
getting a
congratulations for winning
highlighter.
trivia.
Yes, and so after that little scare, we they had like a music theme trivia, so we played that too, and it was, musical scores. So music runs deeply in your family. I think that'd be something your
Mhm,
family would enjoy too, so playing
mhm.
about 10 seconds of a musical score and figuring out where that's from. They played one from Shrek, which we knew, and, it's interesting, I did not know this. So every Royal Caribbean ship has a godmother, and Fiona from Shrek is the Allure's godmother.
I did know that. I
Yeah.
did know that.
Yeah, she is there's a picture of her downstairs in the guest services area on deck 6, so
That
I
is fu
did
it's
yeah.
hilarious,
Oh,
yes,
sorry, deck
so
5, yes. Yeah, yeah, it is very funny. We went to the main dining room for lunch that day. I always recommend that to people who are going on a cruise. If the main dining room is open for lunch, go try that out one day. I had the
mhm.
butternut squash risotto. It was just okay. It was a little bland. And then we went the kids wanted to go back to the kids club. Again, I didn't have to ask them to go. They wanted to go back.
They
And
asked
so when
for it,
they
huh?
did that
Okay.
yeah, they were asking for it. There was another trivia that they had in their Studio B, which is kind of their karaoke lounge, and this one was on your phone, so you could connect to Royal Caribbean's Wi-Fi and play this game for free without having an
Oh,
internet plan, and basically,
oh, that's
it
cool.
was yeah, it was several different rounds, and they were multiple choice things, and you had to click on your phone, and you started out with, 1,000 points, and it deducted points rapidly until the question was over, so if it took a while to answer it, you got less points, and
Less
if you
points than
yeah.
if you answer quickly. Okay.
Yes, yeah, so I ended up placing ninth, which is pretty good because round 2, I missed every single question.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was doing awful, and then I got ninth. So I was on the
That's
TV
funny.
screen, I was happy for myself, and then, we kind of hung out until dinner. That night was Italian night where I had arancini and lasagna, and then they had kind of had a molten cake type dessert, which was really good. So, lasagna
Uh-huh.
was not palo brunch lasagna, but,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
nothing is, yes.
Nothing is. The arancini was good and the dessert was good. After dinner, Jordan took Madeline ice skating. That you could sign up for 20-minute blocks to do that. You can only sign up once, but it was never we never saw it full enough where you couldn't just walk up to it. You did have to wear pants. We were in the Southern Caribbean. I brought no pants for my daughter, so she wore pajama pants to go ice skating.
Mhm. You know, that's something that people run into sometimes on ships. I've done it myself. So it's pants there. You also need socks to wear, which sometimes I don't. If I'm cruising in the summertime, I'm leaving from the heat, I'm going to the heat, I may not have shoes, closed-toed shoes or
Yeah.
socks with me. And we've done that before. We've had issues with on Disney cruises in, oh my goodness, the word is where the credit course is. What on earth did they call that?
Like the Hero Zone,
This is
that
yes,
area.
hero zone. It just wasn't
Yeah.
coming to me. That's so embarrassing. I have some friends that will shame us. You don't need to edit that out, but yes. Yes, in hero zone, we've gotten there before without the socks required for hero zone, and, there was something on a royal ship too once that we did that you had to have closed-toed shoes for. Oh, it might have been I don't think it was iFly because I think they put their special shoes on you for that. I don't know,
Okay.
something on one of them, but there's something you have to have closed-toed shoes for, and we did not have.
Is it the Ultimate
Anyway,
Abyss?
yeah.
Do you have to have them for the Ultimate Abyss?
Maybe. It
Maybe.
may be that. You do need them, I think, for the, on Star of the Seas, they're, this is terrible. I'm not prepared with any of these words in my head. Like there's zip line thing that's off the side of the ship. It's not
Yes.
really like a zip line, but it's like a zip line
Yeah,
off
that course that they had, yeah.
the crown's edge. Is
Yeah.
that what it's called? I think it's called Crown's Edge. Anyway, yeah, so I didn't do that last summer because I didn't have closed-toed shoes that would
Okay.
that I think that was the thing that I missed because of that. Anyway, yes, you don't think of those things when you're going on a
Yep.
tropical sailing, like the wintry clothes. So, but pajama pants work. Good thinking.
Yeah.
That works.
They had no problem with that, and there was a child probably, I don't know, 1.5, 2 out there skating with his parents. It was adorable to watch. So, I mean, it really is kind of I guess if they have skates that will fit you, you can get on. So, she skated in
Mhm.
pajama pants. She was not the only one in pajama pants. After that, there was an aqua show, Aqua 82. So, this ship does have an aqua theater on the back of the ship, back
Mhm.
in the boardwalk area, and I loved it. It was all 80s music and,
Very
80s
fun.
remixes, so a product of the 80s. I love 80s music. It was great, but we were on the 2nd row. I got there, my mom took the kids early to get seats. She did have the show reserved for all of us through the app, and so I get there and find out my children are in the 2nd row, and it was a splash zone. We had towels provided for us, and so we sat there in the splash zone. We did get splashed, and this was by performers who were just splashing us. It wasn't because the dives were that close to us, although the dives
Okay.
were very impressive. I would not sit on the 2nd row again. Not because we got splashed, but because it was hard to see. Where everything is right in front of you, the performers are right in front of you, it's hard to see some of the things going on
To
in the
take it
background.
all in because you're
Yes,
so
to take it
close.
all
Yeah.
in. Meredith fell right asleep in the middle of it. I don't know how because it was loud in there and she just conked out.
When you're
She
done,
climbed up.
you're done. That
Yes,
was it for
yeah,
the day for her.
yeah. Well, she climbed up my husband's out and fell asleep, and that was, the end of day 2. The next day, again, also at sea, we decided to have lunch at El Loco Fresh, which
Mhm.
is kind of a, Tex-Mex quick style up located on the pool deck. I liked it, the kids did not because they didn't just have ground beef for burritos. They had chicken, they had carne asada, they had pork. I liked it, but it wasn't but we ended up the kids going and getting lunch somewhere else. So, I did phone trivia again. They had that every day, and I would have done it every day, but it just didn't work out with the schedule some other time. So, that was the last time I got to do the phone trivia, and I got 2nd that time.
Ooh, you
So,
moved on
yeah.
up.
I
9
go
to
went
2.
way up.
Okay.
I was in first the entire time until the last round. You could offer to double down before you knew the question. So you could double down and get double the points, but if you missed it, you lost those points. So not knowing the questions beforehand, I didn't double down at all and got every single question right, and I lost by 300 points. So, it is what it is. I still got a medal for it. I'm not a pregnancy
Mhm.
test, a medal this time.
Thank goodness.
Yes. And then we took the kids up. Jordan got his surfing band. He has done surfing before on the Flow Rider plenty of times. So he got his surfing band, and then Lincoln wanted to try boogie boarding.
What is a
So,
surfing band? What does that mean?
so they do surfing levels. So you can surf on the Flow Rider. And if you are a beginner that needs help doing that, you can only go at certain times. And so they will
Okay.
give you a white colored band to indicate that you're a beginner and you cannot go when they have more advanced times.
Oh,
And so you have to go and prove yourself.
oh, so he's like fancy surfer dude.
Yes, like fancy surfer
Wow.
dude, yeah, who lives in a landlocked state, but,
Very fancy. I'm
he
impressed.
yeah, so he passed, he got his band, but interestingly, I don't think he ever surfed again on the entire trip. We just had so much other things going on, and,
Is he still wearing his band so that the whole world knows how cool he
no,
is?
he is not, wearing his band anymore, although Lincoln told me he was going to wear his boogie boarding band until our next cruise so he could just go boogie boarding
Just
instantly,
go
and I
right
said,
up, go
"It
right at
doesn't
it?
work
Yeah.
that way." Yeah,
I like how he
but
thinks so. He's already planning ahead for next
yeah,
time.
it's already planning, but so that was his first time trying boogie boarding, and I will say the staff working there was fantastic. They were so patient with him and with making sure he felt comfortable and getting him out safely, and, so kudos to that staff. They were absolutely fantastic, and I appreciate that so much. He's very tall and he's very thin, and he that board just wanted to glide all the way up to the top because his weight couldn't hold it down.
It was like he wasn't even on it.
Yeah, he had a great time, and then that night was our first of our 2 formal nights, so we got dressed up, got pictures taken afterwards in the promenade area. That took a really long time. I'm going to give a tip to our viewers, later about a good place to take pictures instead if you're on an Oasis-class ship, but that was our first formal night, and then, I don't think we did anything after that except for go to bed, so that was our 3rd day and 2nd day at sea. The next day, this was May 19th, we woke up and we were in Curaçao. So, first time there, I made no excursion reservations. My husband just kept saying, "I just wanna go to a beach," and you can find taxis to do that. But when we
Mhm.
got off, he was like, "Why don't we do anything for excursions?" And I told him the reason why was because of transportation. One time, my husband and I did a horseback riding excursion in Cozumel, had a fantastic time, but the transportation was horrible. It was an old bus with half the seats ripped out, and it was like, "I'm not
Mhm.
putting children on this." So but when we got off the ship, you could see the transportation, and these were very nice charter buses. Nice, clean, new charter buses. They had a lot of taxis for hire, so we decided to hire a taxi for a 2-hour tour around the island. And, he took us to, like, a bay where there were flamingos, wild flamingos hanging out, and we got to see go up to the top of the island and look out where the ship was. Then back on board, it was Caribbean night, so we pulled out our Caribbean outfits for a second use, and
Very good.
yes, I got 2 appetizers that night, the coconut shrimp and the pork bao bun tacos. Those were both very good, and then the jerk chicken for dinner. And, that was the only things we did that night too. Took the kids to the kids club and just kind of enjoyed and relaxed. When the kids were in the kids club, we kinda went around with my parents, enjoyed some of the outdoor areas of the ship, and, it was nice. It was really nice. It was having them being able to have a place to go that they wanted to go was great, and, that
Mhm.
night, they were having a Gaga Ball tournament after pickup time. So kids club was free until 10 PM, but they stayed open until 1 AM,
Oh,
and you had to
wow.
pay Yeah, $15 an hour per kid if they
Oh,
wanted to stay. Yeah. So they had all their tournaments during the paid time.
I don't love that.
Yeah,
That's a little sneaky of them, because of course you don't want your kid to be the one left out if they wanna
yes,
be there, if the friends they've made on board are staying, but
right.
15 bucks an hour for 3 hours times 2 kids?
Well,
Did they
Madeline,
stay the whole
yeah, our
time?
oldest daughter, we figured out she did not go to the kids club a lot back at night when my son would go, and that's because we figured
Mhm.
out she made some friends that would go during the day only,
I
and so
see.
she wanted to see them. So she was happy to go during the day, but at night, she wanted to stop going. We talked to him, he wanted to do a tournament, and we said, "Okay, we'll give you 1 hour, 1 time. So we'll
Okay.
pay for it for 1 hour, 1 time," and so that night, he was able to stay up there until 11 o'clock in his tournament. He didn't win, but he took it well, and he didn't ask again after that, so he understood the
Ah,
arrangement, and he was fine with it. But
okay.
Curaçao, beautiful island and, beautiful homes there too, and so we had a great tour. Recommend doing that if you don't have a planned excursion, just hire a taxi, they're there to take you around. The next day was Aruba,
'Kay,
so we
tell me where to go in Aruba, you know I need to know.
Okay, so we again, I had told my husband, I said, "Okay, I want to go to Eagle Beach. I've heard great things about Eagle Beach. It's one of the top rated beaches in the world." I have a friend who told me that is one place she loves to go in Aruba. She's been going to Aruba every couple of years since she was a kid. They always went to Eagle Beach. So we got off the ship and they had taxis lined up and a sign telling you how much it would cost to take you to different beaches. It was a
Uh-huh.
$15 taxi ride one way for all of us. Yeah. So not expensive at all. It's a public beach. It drops you off at a public
Okay.
beach. There are chairs there, but it's first come, first serve. So we did not get off in time to get the chairs, but that's okay. We set out blankets and towels and we stayed in the water. The kids had so much fun. It was a long, huge stretch of beach. Everything was kind of away from it. So you had a lot of sand and it was fantastic. Now, it was pretty choppy that day. There were some storms that were off the coast. We didn't get hit by any rain, but there were quite a few big waves, so it was stirring up a lot of sand. That was the only thing that was kind of like a as you go back and you wash out buckets of sand from your swimsuit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was really the only thing. There wasn't a great place to rinse off on the beach. They did have a bathroom there. It was $2 a person to use. Yes.
Per
Yeah.
use?
Per use, yes. So and there was something people had there was a resort nearby and they had wristbands, and if you had a wristband, you could go and use it for free, but anyways, it is what it is. We spent about 2.5 hours out there on the beach, had a great time, and this was the place where everyone seemed to be going, so, there were a lot of cruisers out there. It was not a problem at all getting another taxi back to the ship,
Mhm.
and we were back on board, so, Eagle Beach was great. There were another beach, Baby Beach, that's pretty popular. However, I think that was more like a $40 taxi ride.
Okay.
So this was easy to go to. And again, I saw a resort, but we weren't not there wasn't a whole lot of resorts near our area. There's a park where they dropped us off at. So it was, very nice to go to. Highly recommend. It was beautiful. When we got back on board and got cleaned up, they had a Disney visual trivia.
Well, that's
So
interesting, on
yes.
a Royal Caribbean ship, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
See,
They
a Disney
showed
life is so relevant after all.
yeah. They showed pictures and images and things like that and some Disney trivia. None of it was parks trivia or I would have absolutely dominated, but it was film
Mhm.
trivia. They would show pictures of like characters and things like that and what movie are they from, really obscure characters. But then they had also questions like what feature film character never speaks during their movie?
It's not coming to me. So, I feel like I know it, I feel like
Yeah.
I've actually heard this question before, but I do not know the answer, so who
So
is it?
it's Dumbo. It is
Oh,
Dumbo. Yeah.
Lord,
Yes, and so, my mom knew that one, and I've heard the question before, and I
good
probably
for
would've gotten
her.
it thinking about it. Yeah, and they had another one, and this one took us a while on it too. What villain in a film do you never see?
Well, gosh, I need way more time to think for
Yeah.
answers of these kind of things. Give us the parks trivia. This one is too
Yeah,
hard.
that's what I told her. I said, "I need Parks trivia."
I feel like it's gonna be so obvious when you give me the answer. I don't know. I
So,
don't
it
know.
was the man from Bambi. He's
Ah,
technically the
okay.
villain of the film, and
I
so
guess so. Yeah,
yeah,
certainly. He
yeah,
would be because
yeah.
yeah,
That took
he's
us
not.
a while. That took us
But
a while.
yeah, so these are older movies too. I feel like,
Yes.
of course, they're classics, but they're just not the ones that come to mind at first,
Right,
obviously.
right. There weren't a whole
Okay.
lot from more recent films, it was pretty much a lot of the older films, but
Mhm.
we tied for first place on that one and won a
Well done.
koozie and a keychain, thank you, and so we did that, and I
So now
one
you've
thing
got a koozie, a keychain, a highlighter, and a medal.
A
Wow, you
medal,
really
yes,
cleaned house.
and there's more
Okay.
to come.
Oh, whoa.
So, one thing I did notice, and I will say this, a lot of the way that they handled trivia, they really asked the questions in such a way that you didn't have time to you did not see people on their phones, so I appreciated that. People were not cheating to try to get answers, but they did not have us exchange answer sheets. So, you
Oh, it
had
was
to
like,
show your I
okay.
was, yeah, on your own word, you had to show your answer sheet to the host, to get your prize, but, they did not have us exchanging those, and I don't know why. I was fine with it. I prefer not to, but, it is what it is. But,
Uh-huh.
that night we had dinner, had a buffalo chicken dip, a lobster mac and cheese, and an apple crumble. I did appreciate the variety in the menu, and I thought the food got better as our cruise went on. Our service also did too. Our servers were fantastic. Again, something was just off on the first night, but they were fantastic.
Uh-huh.
By night 3, they realized my son got the same thing every single night of our cruise. We told him he could order whatever he wanted to, but he got the same thing. And by night 3, they realized he was not eating the crust on his grilled cheese, so starting night 3, it came to him every single night with the crust cut off.
Aw, see,
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking for. That's just amazing,
yeah,
and the kind of thing that makes you feel like the money you spend to take a vacation like a cruise is well spent
yes.
when you get cast members, crew members who pay that much attention to you.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Yeah, and that's, I would say, an argument for main dining room, and also an argument for not doing my time, because my daughter ordered chocolate milk every night, and by night 3, chocolate milk is being brought to the table, we're not even asking for it. So, now my son ordered something different to drink just about every single night, and
Mhm.
and they did bring cranberry juice for free. He started drinking cranberry juice. I don't know, it was weird. Like, kind of
That is strange.
like an old man drink, but
That's very odd.
yeah.
I could remember back on that first Royal Caribbean cruise we took our kids on, they were out of chocolate milk, which was horrendous for us at the time. My 5-year-old Annie, like, that was her staple food that she consumed was chocolate milk. It's like all she wanted every meal. And we had sailed from Bayonne, New Jersey, which is the Cape Liberty cruise port, is what Royal Caribbean calls it. It was a 7-night cruise round trip, and we had 2 nights at sea first and then would be in Port Canaveral, and that's where they were supposedly going to be restocking the chocolate milk. So we couldn't wait to get there for the chocolate milk to be restored. And then what did they bring us at dinner that night? Milk in a hot cocoa packet. So that is not
Oh,
chocolate.
no,
It was,
it's not.
I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
it was rough. That was a rough time. It obviously was just some type of oddball situation, but it's something I remember because just the
Yeah.
thought of the cold milk trying to mix, I mean, that cocoa packet was not dissolving in there. It was like clumps at the top of the milk, and she knew better at that
Yeah.
point too. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that your kids had a very different experience.
Yeah. Well, to add to that, speaking of milk, so my youngest enjoys drinking regular whole milk at night. And on previous sailings, and I had sailed with toddlers, I always went down to Sorrento's Pizza at night and was able to get cartons of whole milk. No problem. They would have to go in the back. So the first night I tried that, I went down to Sorrento's, asked for some whole milk, and the guy was like, "We don't have any whole milk." I was like, "Are you serious?" And I went over to Cafe Promenade, which is where they have sandwiches and coffees. I asked him for cartons of whole milk. We don't have cartons of whole milk. He said, "Go
What?
over to the station and just get some milk out of the carafe." I was like, "Really?" So I asked our server the second night if he had any whole milk, and he did. He brought me 3 things of it, which I appreciated, but they really, you don't have a mini fridge in your room, and their beverage coolers are more like beverage pretending to be coolers. They did not keep things fresh for very long, so having an early dinner and then keeping those in there, they were not good by the morning. So, I ended up going to the Windjammer. The buffet is open until 9 p.m. each night. Ended up going there about 8:50 every night to get a few, and that was
Mhm.
not a problem. But I ran into another parent, and he was filling up a cup from the milk carafe from Cafe Promenade. He was like, "Sorry, I just can't find milk, and my kid's screaming for it." And I was like, "Go to the Windjammer. You'll be okay. Like, just go to the Windjammer." So I said I had the same problem. So that's a note for you parents. Go to the Windjammer before 9 p.m., get your milk.
Get the milk and put it in that beverage cooler. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So we ended up putting the milk in a big stainless steel cup to hopefully keep it a little bit colder, throughout.
Mhm.
That seemed to work well enough. But after dinner, they had a magic show that night. It was a family-friendly magic show, so we sat on the 2nd floor of the theater. The theater is very large. It was fantastic. It was so fun. The guy got kids up on stage to perform. He had a very dry sense of humor. One of those things that appealed to the adults because of the humor of it, and it wasn't, it wasn't jokes that are over kids' heads in that kind of way when things slip in adult humor. It was just the humor of the situation that made adults laugh. And so there was one thing that he had a kid and his father come on up on stage and he did a magic trick with like they picked out a ball and it was a red ball and he said, "Okay, I'm going to give one to your father to pick out and if it's the same color ball, nothing happens, everything's done. If it's not, if he doesn't choose the same color, you get to pie him in the face." And so it was this big to-do leading up to it and
And that's
the kid had
magic.
the kid had a red ball. The kid had a red ball and then then he when he handed it to the dad, he took the bag of balls and it wasn't the bag of the multicolored balls anymore. It was all red balls and you could see it. The kid couldn't see it. And so he handed the dad a red ball and he was like, all this build up. He was like, if it's not the same color, as soon as you see it, hit him and blah, blah. So he gets to the moment and he said, "Okay, dad, open up your hand." And he opened up his hand. It was a blue ball instead of the red. And the kid just piped in the face. And the dad didn't know what color the kid had. So then the magician was like, "Well, what did you have? What color did you have?" And the kid opened his hand and everybody knew he had a red ball and it was blue too.
Oh,
It was things like that. It wasn't like super high profile magic tricks, but this guy goes
uh-huh.
around to, cruise ships and I was talking to my son about it later. He was like, it wasn't like nobody disappeared, things like that. It was like, well,
Right,
this guy
right,
travels. He's only on board for a couple of nights and then he's going to
right.
another cruise ship. So, but it was funny. It was very funny to the point my daughter was sad. She chose where we sat again, but she was sad because they did not call any children from up on the second floor. And she wanted to go to the show to the next night. And we talked her out of it because I said, "Madeline, you already know what he's going to do. So even if you get picked, you already know what the gimmick is and everything." So she decided not to go, but it was really good. That was probably my favorite show of the entire cruise.
Aw, that is very cute.
Yeah.
Fun
So
time, fun
yes,
family stuff.
very fun. Yes. And then that night, there was a Battle of the Sexes show. This was not an 18 and only over show, but so the parents took the girls. Lincoln was in the kids club, so Jordan and I went to watch. He did participate in one of the challenges. They chose 7 guys and 7 girls, and then the guys and the girls had to make their own circles of guys and girls as big as they could and fit as many guys into the guys circle, as many girls into the girls circle. So when they said we need guys down here, Jordan takes off running and he goes in. And the guys had 53 guys in their circle and the girls had like 57. So the girls won that challenge,
Wow.
but overall, the girls lost. It was fun to watch. And then after that, before we got the kids, we did the Rising Tide Bar, which if you haven't seen that before on the Oasis-class, it's really neat. It goes from deck 8 down to deck 5 and it stops every 30 minutes and either goes up or goes down. So we did
Uh-huh.
that. And that was a good time too. The next day was May 21st, and we went to Cabo Rojo in the Dominican Republic, which I had never heard of before and had
Never been there. Nope.
never been there. It was a port town. Have you been to Puerto Costa Maya in Mexico before?
No,
Okay,
I don't
so
think so.
okay, I've been to Puerto Costa Maya. Several of Royal Caribbean cruises, if they go to Mexico, they stop at Puerto Costa Maya.
Uh-huh.
This is a port town built for cruise ships to join to, and it's
Right.
cute.
I
It's
think
nice.
I've been booked to go there before,
Mhm.
kind of like you. I had some cruises canceled a few years back that
Yeah.
ended up never being rescheduled, and that was one of them. So I've
Yeah.
definitely researched it, but I have not actually been there yet.
Yeah. So we didn't dock until about noon that day. Before that, we did a Who Am I trivia, which we were given 3 clues, and the earlier you got guess the person, the more points you got. But anyways, we did that. But we were not going to stay on port long. Jordan and I had a couples massage booked that afternoon, but we just at least wanted to get out and
How
check it
about
out.
you and your massages? You're
Right?
always getting massages on
I
ships,
love nothing
Rachel.
more
I've
than a Christmas
never
massage.
done that. If I ever have
They're
anybody
super
ask
expensive.
me about
Yeah.
a massage on a ship, I'll be like, well, go ask Rachel because she does it all the time.
All the time. They're very expensive, but I always enjoy them. But
Good
anyways,
for
we
you.
arrived around noon. We walked out. It was narrow. It was hot. Aruba and Curaçao were not cold by any means, but they were breezy. You had a nice solid breeze coming off. This port, it was like a standstill. It was like
Oh,
a 90-degree standstill outside. And the way it was built, it was all these windy pathways, narrow. It was not, I would not book another cruise just to go there.
huh,
if that
okay,
makes
good
sense.
to
I
know.
would use that only as a ship day. Yeah, so and another thing about it too is when they were taking people for excursions, they had to walk through the port town as well, and so you're walking against, hundreds of people at a time trying to go to an excursion while you're trying to get back. It was just
Mhm.
not very well laid out, but they had some carnival games and things like that that were free to play, but we needed to get back on board. And that night they had I had tortilla soup and a carne asada. The carne asada was very good. I was very surprised how good it was. I don't think I got dessert because nothing appealed to me. And then we went to a generations battle game. So,
I don't know what
yeah.
that is.
Okay, so here's what it was. They decided the generations would be pitted against each other. How well do you know the other generation?
Okay.
And the cutoff, get this, for being the older generation or the younger generation, only 2 generations, was 40 years old.
So you're almost there. You're heading for
I'm
that in
almost
just a
there.
couple months.
So I knew, okay, I know the older generation then. So
Yeah.
I watched all these 20-year-olds get up there and I thought, here I go. So I got up there and I carried that team to victory.
I
So
believe that. Yes. Well done.
thank you. So there were different categories. It was like, we had to name TV shows from the 70s or name 60s
Oh,
bands, and the other team had to name like Pokemon characters, some things
well,
like
I
that.
would definitely be on the older team.
Yeah, so or Disney movies from the last 10 years, and that was kind of and,
Mhm.
the audience would participate and say, "No, that's not right," or "Yes, that is." Then we had to do scenes from a movie. They were given a movie from the other generation and had to do, like, act out to try to get the audience to guess what it
Oh,
was.
wow. Well, that's fun. See, I
Yeah,
love this kind of thing way more than like 90s music trivia,
yeah,
80s music trivia. Like, I feel like DCL just does the same thing over and over again. It's so repetitive. I love this type of game as
yes.
an alternative option.
Yeah, well, and because it was always different. You never
Right.
whoever you have up there participating has a different spin on it. So, I do have to give a shout out to the Great Movie Ride for inspiration for a lot of these. Casablanca was one of our films.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm on a team with people who had never seen it before, and I was like, "Okay, here's what we're gonna do." And it took a while, but they guessed it, but I did use the famous, airplane scene with the "Here's looking at
Yes.
you, kid," which we couldn't say anything, but I had somebody pretend to be an airplane and a guy and a girl facing each other, and then off to the side, somebody pretend like they're playing piano and everything, but it was a lot of fun, and then we had to the ending category was dancing. We had to dance to music from the other generation, and we lost the first song because they were given the wobble, which has a dance to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were just given Jailhouse Rock, and it's like, what do you do during Jailhouse Rock other than just kinda do the twist? So,
Yeah. We, that doesn't
yeah,
seem.
we
Did
lost
any of
that
them
one.
know the wobble though?
They somebody when s as soon as one person knew it, the other people were doing it. So they
Okay.
got the points on that one. They deserved the points on that one, but the next
All
song, I
right.
don't remember what they got, but we got like a kind of a 1920s Charleston style song, so we won
Mm.
that one. But it was a lot of fun. Got a hat for that one, so I won a hat, and, yeah, so
I hope you packed extra luggage to take home
right.
all of your prizes, Rachel.
Fortunately, this was easy to get. That was the last time that Meredith went to the kids club, but we had the kids in the kids club. Jordan went to go get her, and I went with my parents to what was called the world's hardest music trivia. Our cruise director put that one on. Yes.
Okay.
And that was packed, and it was a lot of like 70s music, but it would ask about like super groups from the 70s or B-side songs or, who was this song really about? That kind of thing. So
I don't
I
know. I
love
feel like somebody with a yacht rock radio love
right.
like I do. I may have actually done pretty well on that one.
Yes, absolutely. So there were some that I knew well, I had lucky guesses on, but we didn't put the answer down. Like, there was a question about Peter Frampton's live album, and then it was who has the best-selling live album of all time.
Rachel, you're quizzing me so much today, and I
Right?
really feel for the
So
put on the spot here.
we put the Eagles. We put the Eagles on there. It was not correct, and I had said the correct answer at one point. Of all people, it's Garth Brooks has the best-selling live
Mm,
album of all time.
I believe
So,
that.
yeah. While they were scoring that, I had to go get Lincoln before we got charged $15. I think my parents gave it about 3rd for that night. Afterwards, we had told Lincoln, if he's responsible, we will let him stay in charge of the girls one night while Jordan and I went out.
Like in your cabin?
In
He
our
stayed in
cabin
your cabin with the kids?
yes,
Oh,
he stayed so the kids stayed in the cabin. My parents are just a door away, and
mhm,
we taught both of the older ones how to call them if they needed
mhm.
them. and we gave my parents a key card to our room. And,
Mhm.
we actually waited until the girls were asleep, and then we went out, and, we went to the Crazy Quest. The Quest was that night.
Right. The
Yes,
quest.
no, that
Mhm.
didn't happen until 11 p.m. I knew as long as the youngest one was asleep, we would have no problems. If she woke up, my son could call my parents, no problem whatsoever.
Right.
So we went to the Quest. I would not go again if all the quests were like what it was.
I've never done it because I've never heard anything about it that made me feel like I wanted to be at it.
We did it on our last cruise, and it was fun. It wasn't too bad. This one,
So
they were
explain the quest for our listeners
okay.
who haven't done it before.
So the Quest was in where the ice skating rink was located. They had the floor on it, obviously not ice, but every section had team captains, a male and a female. And so what they would do is you have a quest to open, and somebody in your section needs to have something on them or do something to fulfill the quest. And then you go and you show the leader, the host of the show, and he will say the team numbers in order of who gets the most points, and then this quest is closed, and then you move on. There have been all sorts of different things like how many men's belts can you tie together in 10 seconds, like things like that. So you have belts flying all over the rink
Mhm.
and things like that. Those are fine. It would ask for random things out of a woman's purse or to have a woman's purse completely cleaned out. So you have a purse flying and they're just dumping it on the ground and showing them an empty purse.
Mhm.
Fine. Then they started asking about who has a hidden piercing. Not fine.
Mm.
Things like that. So this
Hidden
one,
things should maybe stay hidden.
yes, things that maybe need to stay hidden. And then they had it on film and we're like playing back film of these things. And it was just kind of one of those things that was like, and I heard somebody talking about it afterwards too. The following night, and their woman was talking about it, and she was like, "That was the worst one I've ever seen." She was like, It's never been like that before." And so that would be my biggest complaint was that show. I would not do
Huh.
that again. And so when we got back, all 3 kids were asleep. The 2 oldest ones were asleep in our room or our bed, and, so we moved them over to their beds, and everything went fine. They didn't even have to call the grandparents at all. They had the TV on and cartoons going, and they just fell asleep right in our bed, so,
Very good.
yeah, it worked out well. He's a very responsible kid. If my parents were not right there with them, I would have never done that, but,
Right.
they had me to have that. Now, our next day was also a day at sea. It was also my 16th wedding anniversary, so,
Fantastic.
yes. So we were looking forward.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We were looking forward to a day at sea. We had special dinner plans that night. We did a royal mystery. It was packed. Again, this is a day at sea. There's not a whole lot of places for people to go. So we arrived about 15 minutes before it started. All the chairs, all the tables were already taken. We sat in the floor during this.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, they only had a few packets left to hand out. I don't know how many they handed out, but once the clock started, they gave some rules and you just opened up your packet and you had all the clues in front of you. I love doing escape rooms. This one, I think, needed some improvement because it wasn't very clear that the clues need to be treated individually. Like we were kind of looking at this as a big puzzle as a whole, not as the you solve one clue and then you solve one clue and you
And then
solve
you
one.
move on.
Yeah,
Okay.
we thought some of them kind of intertwined, and when you're handed everything at once, it's kind of a little bit overwhelming to figure out, as opposed to an escape room where I feel like it progresses over time, and
One
there's
to the
only so
next,
much you can
right.
do,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
but that night was our second formal night, so we went to formal night. I told my parents Jordan and I had dinner reservations at chef's table that night, which we had never done any sort of specialty dining on Royal Caribbean before, but I told my parents, said, "Hey, we'll still go to main dining with you guys, help out with the kids, take pictures, that kind of thing." So we went to the main dining room and it was lobster night. And of course, I had to get lobster. I had to
Right.
try
You
that.
couldn't not. Right.
I had 2 dinners that night. Who cares? And we decided to get more pictures that night, but I did not want to hang out in the promenade and get pictures on the stairs anymore. But I noticed that they were doing pictures every night in the Central Park area, which is my favorite part of the cruise ship. So we actually went over to the Central Park area and we waited about 4 minutes to have our picture taken. There were only 2 families ahead of us. And I like those pictures a lot more than I do on the stairs. So, a little tip for you if you're on an Oasis-class ship, go to Central Park and get your pictures taken instead of waiting in the main promenade area. So, that
That
was
is That's a great tip. And the Central Park area of the Oasis class and Icon class ships may sound a little bit odd if you haven't experienced it before because you're leaving land to be on the sea. Why do you want to pretend you're on land, right?
Mhm.
But there's just something so peaceful and relaxing about it. The Central Park areas are open up to the sky, so you have natural light during the day, you have stars during the evening. They almost always have live music happening during the evening hours. There's a lot of seating out there. There are restaurants and just other tables and benches around to relax at, and it's just such a peaceful place to be. So
Yeah.
I absolutely love the Central Park area.
Yes. I agree. And again, it's my favorite part of the cruise ship. We spent a lot of evenings out there, right after dinner or anything like that. And we also, I'll mention this too, our main dining room, the main dining room on board this ship was on decks 3, 4, and 5. We were assigned to deck 4. In order to get to our room, to the main dining room on deck 4, you had to walk through the casino. We
Mm.
did that one time and said never again. So and it's not because, I'm sheltering my kids from that, but it's because it allowed smoking and it's just not something in American culture anymore that you're used to.
But you're
Um,
around, yeah. I thought they usually had it just in one section of the casino. I didn't think it was like open to all, but I think
yes.
maybe some
So,
ships are better than others
yeah.
at handling that smell and limiting
So
it
the
to certain
Harmony,
areas.
I will say the Harmony, when I was on it last time, it had one big room and one side was smoking and one side was not non-smoking. This one,
Okay.
the large room was all smoking, and they had a smaller room completely separate from this one that was non-smoking. So you had to walk through the smoking room. So we would often go to the deck with Central Park and walk across Central Park and then go
Perfect.
down to deck
Mhm.
4. So because the main dining room was in the back of the ship and we were all the way in the front.
Right.
So we took our pictures in Central Park, got the kids all comfortable, ready for bed. My son went back up to the kids club, but my parents had permission to go and get him, so they were able to do that later. And then Jordan and I went to Chef's Table. We had an 8:30 reservation for Chef's Table, and we walked in. This was actually off of our main dining room. We saw the location for it each night, and I mean, it was just a table in the middle there, and
Okay.
yeah. So, it was separated from the main dining room by, you could see the main dining room through a curtain there, but, it was a nice, beautiful table, beautiful setup, and it was a 5-course plus dessert with wine pairings.
Oh, wow. And
And
how big
yeah,
of a table was it? Like, were you at a large table with several other guests or?
it seated, let me think, there were 8 of us and there were space for 9 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good size.
Yes, good size, and just one table there, and then we had a sommelier who would come out and discuss each of the wines, and the chef also came out with each course to, describe the course to us, their kind of thought process behind it, and, why they chose certain flavors, so fantastic experience. Our first course was scallops, very thinly shaved scallops with the yuzu sauce, then we had a smoked tomato soup, Maine lobster salad, so I still got lobster that night, round 2, but this one was a cold lobster, and it was the entire piece of lobster too, and, a filet mignon that would rival any other filet mignon I've had on a cruise ship, I will say that. It
Wow.
was
Excellent.
delicious. Yes, and then the dessert, which you would have loved, was called the world dessert, and, let me find the description of it really quick because I was just listening to some things with our podcast from, 50s Primetime and us talking about our love for peanut butter,
Mhm. Mhm.
and
I'm
so
I'm with you
this
so far.
okay, so this dessert, let me find, I took a photo of the menu. Peanut butter ganache,
Okay.
chocolate mousse, salted caramel gelato, and salted caramel espresso.
I would eat that. Yep.
Yeah.
And I think I'd enjoy it. Mhm.
It was delicious, and they also brought out an espresso martini with that. So, Jordan and I did enjoy our wine pairings for each of the course. By the time the espresso martini got there, it was a bit too much. It was just one of those things where, like, I am so full, and espresso martini, having the dairy in it and everything, it was just one of those things that was like, I this is way too
That's a
much.
heavy ending. That's a
Yes,
very heavy ending
very
to
heavy
a
ending.
big meal.
Yeah,
And that
so
wine is filling. When you have
yes,
the wine pairings like that, you get
yes.
filled up pretty quickly. Yes.
And we were told to expect about 2 to 2.5 hours for this experience. It lasted for 3.5.
Wow.
Yes. At one point, my mom texted me, she was like, "Are you guys coming back?" I was like, "We just got dessert. Like, we're not trying to delay coming back at all. We were just presented with dessert." And they also knew it was our anniversary, so they brought out a piece of red velvet cake for us too. And I
My
thought,
goodness.
I have to at least take one bite. I don't want to be rude, but then they brought out red velvet cake for us during main dining room as well for our anniversary. And it was really good. It was very good cake, but man, we were stuffed that night. So we crawled into bed about 1 a.m. from everything. And then the next day was our last day, and this was our day at CocoCay. This was our perfect day at CocoCay. And we got there, I think the ship docked and they gave us the all clear. It was about 9 a.m. when you could get off the ship. We didn't get out of bed until 9 a.m. after having a real long night, but we knew the wonder was going to be there. And I looked outside the
Wow.
window and noticed the wonder was not there yet. So we did kind of rush to get off the ship as soon as we could. One place we went to breakfast a lot, at least for the kids, was Boardwalk. They had donuts every single morning. And so I would often go and get donuts for the kids. So I went, got donuts. We got off the ship. We went over to Chill Island. There was like a lagoon type area there, a cove, I should say, really more of a cove that the kids got to play in. The water was a lot calmer than it was in Aruba. So we did not come out with piles of sand in our pockets.
Very good.
Yeah, and the kids had a great time again, and they were able to walk out a little bit further for the water to be still about waist level. Now we've talked about the areas around, Castaway Key where the cabanas are and how the tide pulls the water out and you're
Uh-huh.
stuck with very little water. This was not the case over at Chill Island. The
Okay.
water stayed deep all day long. There were people snorkeling over nearby. They had some platforms out with the lifeguards watching the people snorkeling. I know, and I've seen the maps of it. There's plane wreckage and a boat wreckage somewhere off of there that you can go find snorkeling. But they ended up calling people out of that area because stingrays were spotted. So, yeah. So, and then there's a lot of coral, some rocks nearby where a lot of tropical fish will go and swim nearby. So, a lot of people with snorkeling gear were also by those rocks. And we could go and stand in the water. It was about knee deep, and you could look down and see those fish. So, we pointed those out to the kids too. Where they could see those and still be not in deep water at all. But after that, we went over to Splash. They have their own Splashaway Bay on the island that is free for children. So I think Meredith would have spent all day there had we
I
given her the
believe that.
option. Yeah,
It really is fantastic.
it is.
CocoCay gets a lot of heat sometimes from people complaining about the upcharges for things. And I understand that there are quite a few things there that you have to pay extra if you want to do. But they also have things that are at no additional charge that are absolutely fantastic and you can't get on the other islands.
Yeah.
Splashaway Bay, that splash area for the kids is one of them. The giant Oasis pool right in the center of the island is absolutely free, and tons of beach area and lounge chairs. So you can certainly go there and not spend a penny and still have
Yes.
a fantastic day doing way more than just being on the beach.
Yeah. And that's exactly what we did. And we let the kids play there for about an hour. They had, I think, 4, maybe 5 water slides for the kids there.
Mhm.
And Meredith loved those. They dumped out into 2 feet of water. So there were parents that were waiting off on the edges for younger kids to go down the slides to get their kids.
Uh-huh.
They did have 3 slides in a row together, and I would watch as Meredith was in the middle, and my husband was on one side, and my daughter was on the other side, and they all held hands and went down the slide together.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, so it was fantastic, but then we went and got lunch. We went to one of the outdoor buffet areas between Splashaway Bay and between Chill Island. They had a wonderful selection. They had burgers and hot dogs. They had a taco bar. They also had other sandwiches, like a Philly cheesesteak, and so they had a ton of food. You would not go hungry. I was very impressed with it, and
Uh-huh.
so we ate lunch there. I'll also mention one thing that we talked about with at Lookout Key is when you're walking along the pier and there's no shade.
Mhm.
I
Oh,
we
Royal
did
always has the
Yes.
fabric up there, right? The very
Yes.
colorful, yeah.
Yes, very colorful. It was wonderful, and I'm really wondering why hasn't Disney done this yet because it did provide
Mhm.
enough shade, for
And it's
you
been
on
there
the
for years. I think
Mhm.
since, like, 2018 or so that Royal put that up on their pier, so I have no idea why Disney hasn't
Yeah.
yet. They should have known before they did it,
Yes.
but
And we sat under one of those. They had some blue, kind of turquoise ones out along the food areas. We sat under those for when we ate too, and it was just fine. After that, we actually went to the Oasis Lagoon and spent about an hour in the Oasis pool. That was something I had not done before on CocoCay, but I enjoyed that. That was a nice way to let the kids play in some water before getting back on board the ship because as gross as it sounds, it did wash away quite a bit of the sand
get
from
the sand out of the suit. Yep.
yeah.
I've been there.
Yes, and we took them we were gonna go on a take them on a lap all the way around the pool. We decided not to go around the bar area, and it wasn't because people were being rambunctious or anything, it was just pretty crowded. So, by the time we had gone over to Splashaway Bay, the Wonder did show up, and so there were a lot more people on the island, but I will say we still did not have problems finding seats
Hmm.
or, get not standing in long line for food, so it was fine, and those are the Wonder and the Allure are both very large ships, so,
Hmm.
it was high capacity. Afterwards, I decided about 2 o'clock I was going to take the kids back on board, start getting everybody cleaned up for dinner. Jordan stayed out for about another hour and a half. He told me he actually went and he wanted to go rent snorkeling equipment, and they told him it would be full price for the day. And
For the
then they
last
told him
hour.
so he was going to go snorkeling out, try to find
Okay.
those wrecks, and he said but they weren't even letting people snorkel over there, so I don't know if they still the stingrays stayed or things had just been churned up so much in the water, but he went instead and got in a hammock and took a nap, so he had a good time
Nice.
too.
That's
One
nice.
thing, I did not realize how close we were to Norwegian's private island
Oh, you
destination.
could see it. Yeah, it's right
Yeah,
there. You could
yeah,
usually see if they have a ship over there, you'll see it because I think they still tender in over
yes,
there. So you'll see it anchored out there. Yep.
yep.
Hmm.
We saw it went out there, and it was one of the newer ships. I don't know which one it was. Prima, maybe? I don't know. I didn't look up
Hmm.
to see what ship that it was, but I know it was one of the newer ones because it had the slide on the side of the ship, which the newer ones are
Okay.
getting.
Hmm.
And so they were tendering in, and I could see a lot of construction going on the island, so they must be expanding quite a bit of the area there, but, so we could see that ship, and it stayed out. It was there the entire time we were there, so they were on that island for a long time. But that night was our farewell dinner, and farewell dinner has always been my least favorite. It always felt very rushed, but when you all your other dinners are an hour, it didn't feel rushed this time. And, I had a crab cake, and then they had a turkey Thanksgiving meal as one of the entrees, and so I got that, and that was
That's
yeah,
interesting.
turkey and stuffing and cranberry sauce and, sweet potatoes, and it was good. So, in the dessert, I don't remember the name of it, but it was a Spanish version of a crème brûlée. So, it
Okay.
had a bit more cinnamon in it. It was very good. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that, and then fortunately this night you mentioned music trivia. I love music trivia. Another complaint that I would have, and my mom actually told the cruise director about this, all of the Name That Tune trivia was during the 5 o'clock dinner.
Oh, well, that stinks.
Yeah, so we always
Yeah,
miss
they
that.
didn't offer it more than once.
No, and well, they offered several different varieties, like a classic rock, one-hit wonders, '80s,
Okay.
'90s, but it was all during 5 o'clock dinner, and so
Hmm.
that would be my, suggestion. Offer that, do 2 shows and, switch up the music, and so
Right, right.
because I do agree, I feel like Disney Cruise Line doesn't change up the music. Royal Caribbean seems to give their host more freedom to be able to change up things, so I think
Uh-huh.
they are changed up quite a bit more. But, there was nothing going on that night that we wanted to see, so it was an easy night for us to get packed up and ready to get off the ship, sadly.
Mhm.
So, May 24th, that's what we did. We got up early. Jordan and my dad got off the ship, walked our big luggage off just before 7 a.m. My mom and I waited with the kids about another 15 minutes, then walked off with all the small bags, and, it was a breeze. We never stopped. Once we got on an elevator, we walked and never stopped. There were no lines
Mhm.
whatsoever. It was a very different experience than getting off Disney Cruise Line. But so I mentioned earlier at the beginning of this episode that we did not all drive back. We took my dad and my husband to the airport, dropped them off at the airport. They flew back home. They needed to get back to work on Monday. And then my mom and I took a 3-hour drive to Walt Disney World, which we will talk about in our next episode. But that was the end of our cruise adventure. And it was an adventure, it was 8 nights on board. And it was an 8 fantastic nights. I really, really enjoyed it.
So there's one thing, Rachel, that you didn't mention that I've kind of been waiting for you to talk about the whole time. You didn't go see Mamma Mia? This is the Mamma
No,
Mia ship. This is the
I know.
reason my kids want this ship.
I
My
guess I've
kids
been
want to sail
avoiding
on this
this
ship for Mama.
conversation. No, we did not go see Mamma Mia. Primarily, they did offer it more towards the beginning. They never really offered it after, like, night number 3 or 4.
Okay.
I don't think they did, but, it's what, a 2.5-hour-long production. It is a production.
Yeah, when Royal Caribbean does these Broadway type shows, it's the whole thing. It's the
Yes,
full
it is the
show. It's a
entire thing.
long time commitment and it's hard for younger kids. Also hard
Yes.
for me to sit through something like
Yes.
that when I'm
Yeah.
on ships. But
So,
don't get me wrong, usually on ships, especially with Royal, we often have my parents along with us, and when our kids were little, we would send them along. Mom and dad and my kids would go to the shows because they all love to do them, and my husband and I would go swim or sit in a hot tub somewhere
yeah.
because that's what we like to do. So
Yeah.
it was
Well, and
perfect, but
that if the show had been an hour, yes. There's so much to see and do on a cruise ship, and
Mhm.
I'm the type of person, I don't I don't know what relaxing is on vacation, so I enjoy the go, go,
Excuse me,
go.
little miss, I have a massage on every
Well,
ship
that is
I
my
go on.
relaxation on vacation. That is my nap time.
I don't know how to just relax. I need somebody to massage me while I'm
That is the
relaxing.
only way that I can relax on vacation, so and I will take it. But, yeah, so we did not go and see Mamma Mia. I heard it was fantastic. I heard the performers were fantastic, but it is difficult when you have 3 kids. Even if you have kids in the kids club, timing doesn't always work, out
Right.
well because you have to go and pick up your kids eventually.
Yes, I understand. Well, it sounds like you had a fabulous trip. I love
Yes.
it. I love that you did that. I'm a little jealous of your 8-night cruise. I can't imagine at this point being able to get away for 8 full nights, although I always aim to do that. So that is perfect, and I am excited to chat next week about your Walt Disney World part of your trip and get back to a little bit more Disney in our
Yeah,
chat. So, well, welcome home. I
thank
hope you
you.
have your next trip planned soon. So to
Yeah,
help
me too.
ease the end of vacation sadness.
Yes.
Well, I think we could probably roll right into our listener question because we do have a listener question today before we wrap things up. And that question is a Disney related question, actually. What quick service restaurant do you recommend in Epcot in the summer? So it's a pretty specific question. Is there something that comes to mind, Rachel, for you in Epcot for a quick service in the summer?
Yeah, so what comes to mind immediately for me is Sunshine Seasons in the Land
Yeah.
Pavilion. I just love Sunshine Seasons and it might be nostalgia, might be growing up going to it, but there's a lot of different counters with different food varieties and food options, plus the indoor seating. Sometimes it does get a little crowded in the indoor seating, but then you also have attractions that you can go to before or after you eat. So it's a nice way to spend a couple of hours cooling off in the hot summer air. Close by, there's Connections Eatery as well. I have had food there. I'm just not as crazy about Connections Eatery. It
Mhm.
just feels very cafeteria to me. And I think it's because of how the seating is arranged. It's just a big open space. It feels like I'm in a big corporate cafeteria. That's how I feel at Connections Eatery. What about you, Missy? What would you recommend for a hot summer day?
So I agree along your lines of thinking with Sunshine Seasons that there's a lot of things to do inside that same pavilion there because you could ride Soarin' and you could ride Living with the Land, especially during those summer afternoon thunderstorms or something. That's a good place to take a break. But my first thought really was over in the American Adventure at Regal Eagle Smokehouse because I feel like the times that I'm the hottest when I'm touring Epcot, it's because I'm all going all the way around the world and you're not inside and undercover quite as much. And in the summertime in particular is when I probably don't want to stand outside at different kiosks and outdoor places to get food. So Regal Eagle always has a lot of seating. It's halfway around the world and there are plenty of food options there. So that would probably be my go-to on that side of the park. So I guess I would say it depends on what side of the park you're on. Either one of our options would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Eagle is another great place with a lot of indoor seating. If you have a question that you would like to have us answer, there are a couple ways that you can submit those to us. We have 2 email addresses. We have podcast at storybookdestinations.com and a Disney Life at storybookdestinations.com. Submit your questions to us and we'll be happy to feature those on air. We also have social media platforms where you can follow us on. We have a Facebook group called A Disney Life. We also have an Instagram and TikTok where our handle is A Disney Life Pod. So come see us over there. We'd love to have you join us. Now for our tip of the week, I will give you a cruise tip of the week. This is great for adding some extra storage to your room. So the walls of your cruise cabin are magnetic. So purchase some high capacity stainless steel wall magnet hooks to add some extra storage to your cruise cabin. These are great if you want to use a bungee cord to hang those on in the bathroom as a way to dry out your swimsuits after taking a dip in the pool or the ocean. They're also fantastic to use the hooks to hang up hats or bags on. And one thing that we did is that we bought a shoe rack, one of those hanging shoe racks, and we hung that up and we used that to put in extra shoes and sunscreen and little items that we wanted to keep close to the door for our way out. So use all the space that you have, get some high capacity magnetic wall hooks, and add some storage to your cabin.
And I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you so much to Rachel for chatting with me today about her recent Allure of the Seas cruise with Royal Caribbean. We appreciate all of our listeners out there today, and we hope that you'll tune in next week to hear about Rachel's trip to Walt Disney World.